Alfred Nazaret, ¿cómo era la canción de John Lennon? Imagine us people. Mira, son jodedores, vale. Qué canción tan bella. La letra, para las más jóvenes, busquen la letra. Es una inspiración para todos los tiempos, es un himno para todas las épocas y generaciones que dejó John Lennon como regalo a la humanidad. Que viva la memoria eterna de ese gran poeta y música, John Lennon. Us people. Imagine us people.
Imagining us people. You guys ever seen The Jerk, Steve Martin, when he's like, I'm doing it, Mama, I got rhythm. Good morning, pineapples. I was born a poor black child in Peculiar, Missouri. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Oh my God, today's show's gonna be, it's gonna piss everybody off. And I'm just gonna laugh because I don't care. I don't know anybody's shit. I can say what I want, do what I want. I'm a free man. God bless America. Wait. Where is it? Where's that sticking flag? I go backwards. There we go. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. It's America, and God bless America. Glad to have you here. If you're watching the Wake Up America show and you're a fan already, have you clicked the like button today? If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Click the follow button as well. Come back and join us Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We've got some coffee. We got some truth. No tolerance. I'll tell you, we don't have any tolerance for the nonsense coming out of the ruling class. Today is Monday, the 17th of November. America is running on fumes, caffeine, and sheer stubborn willpower. We're going to talk about it today. So we're opening with the country's real crisis, not the one that the politicians love to argue about on the cable news. I'm talking about the collapse of connection in this country. The Wall Street Journal published a monster over the weekend showing how remote work, hybrid work, camera off meetings, scattered teams, and shrinking offices have hollowed out the social life of the American worker. America has become a lonely nation, a drifting nation. People don't know their coworkers, don't know their neighbors, don't know their communities, and feel more isolated than ever. And that's happening at this exact same time that the cost of living is crushing families like a steel press. Groceries are crazy. Rent is insane. Energy spikes every month. And every time Washington tells voters that things are improving, Americans look at their bank receipts like, improving where exactly? Your house or mine? So the White House is scrambling, cutting tariffs on foods. God bless it. Who could have ever thought that lower taxes would result in better prices? I wonder who's been advising him lately. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Nelson65, Quest Fanning, Steffi for Liberty, Drew Van Runkle. He's here to be enraged and disagree with everything. Good. I've got a special show for you today. We're going to break all that down with Jon Miltimore at 8 a.m. Central, and I've got some clips, and we'll talk about that at the top of the hour. But then we're going to pivot because MAGA world is on fire, and last night the flames shot 20 feet higher. Just hours after torching Marjorie Taylor Greene, pulling his endorsement and accusing her of begging for Senate and governor races that she was doomed to lose, Donald Trump did a dramatic 180. Listen to this. On the Epstein files, he now says Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files, saying, quote, "We have nothing to hide." This is massive. This is not a minor adjustment. This is the politician version of a controlled demolition. And the first person buried under the rubble is Marjorie Taylor Greene's Martyr Act. Done. Nuked it.
Her life is in danger. Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. I don't think Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her. Okay, what about you?
Healthcare. Are you negotiating?
Her life is in danger.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, right to the press's face. God bless our president. I'm amused. I'm wearing my dark MAGA hat today. You can find this over at the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Symbolically. For 3 days, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's been running around pretending that she's Joan of Arc, going on CNN, talking to all the libs, and saying weird stuff like this.
Sorry for taking part. I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Yeah.
Is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements. I would like to say
that is a woman who has been roundly chastised, who has been put in her place by a man. She's running for the hills. So she's been claiming that she is being persecuted for wanting the Epstein files released. She's building a whole redemption arc around transparency. I'm not buying it. And Trump overnight snatched that storyline out of her hands. Poof. Gone, right? Where's my magic button? Her brand rescue mission just got nuked from orbit. Meanwhile, Thomas Massie, brilliant, principled, prickly Thomas Massie, is in the most awkward position of his career. Trump hits him personally one day, then adopts his signature issue the next. The man has watched his enemies become his allies and his allies become his enemies in less than 48 hours. It's like being in a libertarian Memento reboot, where every time you wake up, your coalition has changed. The point is, America First is being stress tested. This is the movement that has reshaped the GOP. It is going through the painful transition from emotional loyalty to ideological identity. And it's messy, it's loud, it's chaotic, and it's necessary. So today, we're going to look at the whole thing: the burnout of lonely workers, A1, the White House flailing over affordability, the Trump Massie MTG earthquake, and the existential question that nobody wants to ask: what is MAGA going to be when the smoke clears? A movement of ideas or a circus of influencers? At 8 a.m. this morning, Jon Miltimore helps us to break down the affordability crisis and the remote work loneliness epidemic. At 8:30 a.m., Remso Martinez joins us for the political branding autopsy, what MTG got wrong, what Massie needs to fix, and why Trump's reversal may be the moment that the movement finally grows up. So, and as always this morning, if the audience unlocks $100 raised on the show, we will drop today's mini documentary. Otherwise, it's the commercials for you. So keep those Rumble rants flowing. I've seen some coming in. I'm very grateful for everyone's financial contributions. That's what keeps this show rolling and the network growing. And our network is growing with new shows being added very soon. And if we hit $150, then this turns into The Price is Right, and I'm Bob Barker. And now you're going to get it, Bobby. And this turns into the Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live. So keep those Rumble rants coming in. Purchases at the For Liberty shop, which, by the way, deadlines are coming up for holiday shipping. So if you want a nice embroidered 1776 hoodie from forlibertyshop.com, or you want a beautiful dark MAGA Make America Great Again hat, these are beautiful embroidered products, but embroidery takes a little bit longer. So get those orders in, guys, so that they can get there by Christmas. You got no worries. I mean, if you just want to do something on Amazon and not care 2 or 3 days, I understand. I can't compete with Amazon, but you can't find the things that I make on Amazon because we design our products in-house. They are beautiful, and you can only get them at libertyshop.com. I watched Die Hard over the weekend, and now I want a ho, 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 I have a gun now sweater, says Helping Freedom. I have one. It's sexy. All right, guys, settle in, pour a second cup of coffee, guys, because this one's going to take a little time. We're going to open the show with something a little bigger than politics, bigger than red versus blue, bigger than whatever the latest poll or whatever melodrama Congress is staging for clicks this morning. I want to talk to you about something that's been in the air for years now, something quiet, something slow, something that we not fully admitted to ourselves because it's crept into our lives one notification at a time.
The second worst thing to happen to young people is remote work. 1 in 3 relationships begin at work. This is where you find friends, mentors, and mates, and especially young men need the guardrails of a workplace. But in my view, the worst thing that's happened to young people is the anti-alcohol movement. I've had Huberman on, who I'm a big fan of, and Attia on, and my point is that the risks to your 25-year-old liver are dwarfed by the risk of social isolation. In sum, think of all the amazing relationships you've had in your life, and be honest. Did alcohol play a role? In sum, get out, drink more, and make a series of bad decisions that might pay off.
Yes! Not exactly the message that I would expect to be able, that I would give to like a young person. But I think there is a lesson there, and I think that there is something important that we should probably talk about. Good morning, John and Casey. Good to see you, brother. America has become a lonely country. I think I can hear you nodding along your heads. We all agree on this. It's a tired country. It's a disconnected country, a place where people are surrounded by screens but starving for real community, a place where the average person spends more time looking at a glowing rectangle than into the face of another human being. These are just facts. And this weekend, the Wall Street Journal ran a piece that finally said the part that nobody in Washington has the courage to say out loud. Remote work is not just an experiment anymore. It's a revolution in how we live, how we think, how we relate, parent, build, learn, and communicate. But it has come at a hidden cost. For everything, there are trade-offs. A cost that we're only really now as a society starting to measure. But it is a cost that I think we can feel in our bones, even if we never put a name to it. So the article in the WSJ laid it out. It said remote work has separated office work from the office itself, and in doing so has pulled apart the invisible threads that used to tie people together. Before the pandemic, nobody had tested what would happen if we took millions of American workers out of shared physical environments and turned the entire economy into a scattered archipelago of home offices, kitchen tables, and bedroom desks. But now we have the answer. Performance is down, collaboration is down, innovation is down, workplace culture has thinned out like a faded photograph, and people are not learning from each other the way that humans learned for thousands of years, through proximity, through mentorship, through osmosis, through watching how someone older, wiser, or more experienced handles a situation. There are a lot of lonely, unstable folks out there, says Upon a Burning Nation. First of all, great username. And welcome to the show. Great comment. I'd love to see a little red castle next to your name, though, Upon a Burning Nation. You seem like our type of people. And InJam77, what's up, brother? Good morning. Let's make sure everybody has a little red castle next to their name today. You know how to do it. So, my father-in-law was visiting this weekend. I got to have a really great weekend with him. We went to the Lake of the Ozarks. We spent some time together. My phone's always... my nose is always in my phone to some extent, but I did go outside. I did touch grass. We did do some outdoorsy sort of things and got to have a beautiful view of the lake. And God bless it, it was like 72 degrees outside in mid-Missouri. Did anybody else enjoy this beautiful weekend and this gorgeous Indian summer that we've been having? I don't know. Right now it's 35 degrees in Jefferson City, Missouri, as you can see from our weather tracker. What's it like where you are? But I got to go outside. I got to spend some time with family, and we had this conversation. Everybody wants to know in my inner circle. They're always like, "What are you going to talk about on the show next, guys?" For you guys, it's like your routine. For like my inner circle of like family and friends who just look at me as like Austin, not like AP for Liberty. They're always like, "Oh, what's going on with the show? Austin, how are things going, et cetera, et cetera." And it's like, well, tomorrow we're going to talk about remote work and how that's changed things. And, the dynamic of my life with the fact my wife works from home, I work from home, we work from home together. I was like, well, it works out great for us. We get to raise our daughter in our home. we get along really well, but of course, not a lot of husbands and wives get along really well. Some people, they want to go into the office to, well, get away from their spouses. It's healthy for some people. It is. If you can't, some people, it's good to miss them. It's not that you don't dislike them, but after 8 to 10 hours, of being gone all day, it's, maybe it's good to come home and feel like, oh, wow, it's nice to see you again. And, perhaps that would work well for some people. But think about all the people who are lonely and isolated. I don't know that I necessarily would feel lonely or isolated if Stephanie and I weren't together. I think I would, but it would just be a different kind of lifestyle that I would be leading. Stephanie was the 1 in a billion. That's why I married her. But I'm also one in a billion in a different sort of way, because I'm just an odd duck, right? Did you think that I would be chill, guys? That we would just chill out and it would be normal? No, I'm not that way, guys. If you look for Austin Peterson to sit around and like talk about whatever normal people talk about, do whatever normal people do, you're in the wrong place. But I think for a lot of people, this loneliness has changed our culture in a dramatic way that a lot of people really don't even recognize. I mean, consider if you don't go into the office, if you are working from home, you may not have an opportunity to meet your future wife. You may not have an opportunity to learn some skill from someone else who's at your office that they wouldn't have shown you if you didn't hunt them down a little bit. I've seen it a lot of times in these young people in these organizations. They have to hound the old codgers who, they don't want to work as hard like they did in the young guys. The young guys have to sort of show up to their office and really get as much as they can from them to try and build up their career and learn from. That's not happening as much. So let me paint this picture for you. For generations, the office was not just a building where we all worked. It was a place where Americans learned how to be competent, how to communicate and work with other people in challenging environments, how to navigate conflict, how to negotiate priorities, how to understand the personalities around them, right? How to take cues, facial cues, read tones, catch implications, build rapport, and solve problems in real time with living people right there in the room. Now think about what happens when you rip all of that out and you replace it with a Zoom window filled with a checkerboard of faces. Half of them are muted, half are pretending to pay attention while scrolling through another tab, and a couple of floating headshots of people who turn their cameras off because the dog threw up behind them or the toddler wandered into the room with a diaper on their head. I mean, you cannot learn human behavior through a webcam. You cannot absorb company culture through Slack emojis. And you cannot apprentice yourself to a master of the craft when the master is a tiny square next to the guy whose audio keeps cutting out because he lives in a hollowed out mountain in Colorado. And this has real consequences. The Wall Street Journal points out that nearly half of hybrid workers do not even show up on their assigned office days. And companies say that this tension is getting worse. Managers all over the country are overwhelmed with virtual meetings because the quick hallway conversations that used to take place in seconds now take 30 minutes. People are hiding behind screens. People are exhausted from these online interactions that feel both too intimate and also too shallow. So people are drifting away from each other without even realizing it. Think about this. Almost 1/4 of the older workers met their spouse at work. 1/4. So that is a vital statistic of a thriving civilization. The workplace was more than an economic engine to the American people. It was a relationship engine. It created families. It created marriages. It created friendships that lasted decades, and it created networks that built careers. Now, what do people meet at home? Their fridge, their cat, right? The Wi-Fi router, their own reflection, right? We wonder why depression and anxiety and social distrust are climbing. We wonder why people feel more irritable, maybe are less resilient, right? More fragile. And we wonder why politics has become a blood sport and half the country thinks the other half is possessed by demons. I mean, here's your answer. People without community, they build raw nerves. The more isolated a person becomes, the more detached from reality and the more danger that they become in. People without real connections, they become very extreme. Because there's no one ever checking their impulses, right? There's something to being a part of a community and being with other persons that provides it's a necessary leavening for the bread of civilization. People without in-person social lives, what do they feel? You wonder why conspiracy theories have exploded online. It's because everybody's isolated. They're all isolated. So they're looking for escapism or rage. A lot of this rage surrounding the Epstein files is because a lot of people's hostility is not being brought out. It's not coming out into their communities, they're not channeling their rage somewhere. That rage is for them an outlet to their suppression, the suppressed desires that they feel and the emotions that they feel that they're not expressing on a daily basis to other humans in their community. It's important for human beings to have that release valve, to come into contact with other people, to negotiate with other people. What do you want to do? Do we want to go here? Or do you want to go there? What is that? Coming together, building a consensus. Okay, well, Robert doesn't like skiing and somebody else broke his leg. So we're, if we go here, then we've got to accommodate, right? That sort of situation, right? That is a very important character building exercise. And we've lost that to a large extent. I think we're paying the price for this spiritually, psychologically, culturally, and I think we're paying the price for it politically as well. The Wall Street Journal took us back to history. The old offices of the 1920s were industrial machines that were designed to track paperwork. But by the 1960s, they were redesigned to encourage creativity, conversion, and human flow. People were intentionally placed together so that knowledge passed naturally between them. The American office was one of the great social inventions of the 20th century. It took strangers from around the country and turned them into collaborators, built teams, friendships, business partners, mentors. And yes, before it became looked down upon by the HR departments, you used to be able to get married to people that you met in your office. There used to be families that would get built in offices. And then there used to even be sometimes little children would be running around the office. It would happen, yes. But there was a time when if parents were busy and they were an important worker, then they'd bring their kid to work and they'd get the work done if they had to, right? But by the 1980s, the cost cutting started to shrink the American office. Eventually, hoteling became the norm. People lost their desks, lost their neighborhoods, lost the space where they had ownership. And then the pandemic came in 2020 and took the last bit of humanity out of the workplace. What little remained was turned into a series of scheduled pings on a screen. But here's the most important line in the article. What used to happen organically now requires effort. And too many organizations are failing at that effort. So that is the line to me that hits the hardest from this piece, because it doesn't just apply to work. It applies to our whole country. Now, everything that used to happen naturally in this country now requires intentional action. Friendship no longer happens by accident. Community no longer happens by default. Trust does not spring up organically if people never see one another. And shared identity gets weaker when the rituals of work and worship and service and civic life disappear. We're living through a cultural experiment right now that is replacing the national character. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show right now, I'm Austin Peterson. Good morning. We're talking about how remote work has changed the balance of our culture and our civilization. I'm talking a little bit about how this experiment, we're seeing it play out in real time, and how it's shaping our national character. So for decades, we've been drifting away from church attendance. My brother went back so that he went back to church so that he could find a community again. And he's already seeing the benefits of that. He got invited to a party a couple of weeks ago. He was so thrilled. He got to meet all of these wonderful people he was having these great conversations with. He was, he messaged me telling me how excited he was to be able to be a part of this healthy community. And I have to say, I was really thrilled for him that he had found and tapped into a community of people that were like-minded, that he could build rapport with. That this is what civilization really is. This is what it's about. And if you know me, I am a warrior for Western civilization, the values of the West. Dating has become more and more from online sources. I don't know that coworkers make much of a romantic source anymore. And isn't that sad? I saw some Bill. I think Bill Ackman is this billionaire. He was telling people how they can get out there and meet other people, and it made me laugh because he was like, "You should approach girls, go out and approach women, and say, 'May I meet you,'" which yielded lots of funny memes. "May I meet you?" But all of this is happening, right? We've all drifted into the world of screens now. Remote work has placed turbojets on trends that were already starting to hollow out our social foundations. Now we have accelerated this drive. And this is all happening. All this isolation is coming at a time when the pressure on Americans, the economic pressure, is at its most intense in 2 decades. People are lonely and broke at the same time. And that is a combination no society can absorb without deep shockwaves. The cost of living crisis is real. It's not theoretical. It's not academic. It's real. And don't let any pundit tell you that it is all in your head. The White House is scrambling and changing their policies on things like tariffs because voters have already reached their conclusions, right? The prices are too high. Groceries are painful. Housing is out of reach. Electricity is rising because the grid cannot keep up with the demand, and wages are not keeping pace even when nominal raises show up on a spreadsheet. So the president is cutting tariffs on coffee, thank God. He's cutting tariffs on beef, thank God. Nuts, fruits, spices. The administration is floating these $2,000 rebates for taxpayers. There are discussions about antitrust investigations into meat packers. There are new offshore drilling proposals, prescription drug negotiations, housing plans, 50-year mortgages, a whole menu of ideas being pulled off the shelf because something has snapped inside the American psyche. People are tired of being told that everything is fine. They're tired of being told that inflation is down even though prices are up. They're tired of explanations, excuses, charts, graphs. People want life to stop getting more expensive every time that they step outside. And combine that with millions of people who are isolated in their homes, and you have a recipe for national volatility, not an insurrection or an uprising here. I'm talking about something more subtle and even more dangerous. I am talking about a widespread sense of aimlessness. That is a danger. The sense of being untethered, you can feel it, can't you? People are drifting. It's like they're in a storm without a compass. And that's why I opened with this topic today. Not because remote work is bad. There are huge benefits, flexibility, autonomy, access for disabled workers, opportunities for parents like us. And there's a real freedom to being able to control your schedule and environment. I'm not attacking remote work itself, but I am attacking the illusion that it has no cost. Because freedom without community becomes isolation. Not everybody wants to live like a hermit in the woods and never see other human beings again. Although I did read an article in the Wall Street Journal that said the ultra-rich and the ultra-billionaires are finding ways to isolate themselves entirely from society. But do you really want to live like that? I mean, if you maybe being a billionaire, I don't know. It's a great question, Austin. Does that disrupt your thesis any? Maybe. I'm willing to change my mind. Can you say the same? Jenny Y, nice to see you. Jenny, good to have you here. Steph793 says peanut butter is more expensive than the last time I bought it. Yeah, exactly. Liberty Tonight Show says, I want to be a hermit, but with my hordes of kids. It doesn't really count if you've got a horde of kids. That's a cult, Brian. Like starting a new religion. Good to see you here, bud. So freedom without community, isolation, right? Work without human interaction, it becomes sterile. And a country without shared spaces becomes a country where people lose the habits that make self-government possible. The founders understood that free societies require social capital. Tocqueville practically screamed at us from the 19th century. You cannot have liberty in a society where people barely know each other, right? We need to increase the amount of trust in society. We have to turn around the trend from a low trust society to rebuild trust in our society. And that means that we need to have interactions, right? And it's not a call to force everyone back into cubicles. This is just a call to pay attention, right? To reconnect, to rebuild spaces where Americans see each other as who we are, as neighbors, not avatars, not emojis, not 3D people on a screen, right? It's important for us to understand that the human soul needs more than email threads and Slack chains, right? We need community. You got to laugh together. I was listening to my wife laughing last night, talking to her father, who was visiting over the weekend. And then I heard Hazel laughing. I had to work and be a bah humbug. I had to be Ebenezer Scrooge because I had to get this show ready today, and you're welcome for that. But I was listening to them last night here from the living room, and I could hear them all laughing. Every once in a while, I'd hear the baby laugh, and then I'd hear Stephanie laugh, and then I'd hear my father-in-law laugh. And I'm just listening to that. I'm just like, God, that is the most beautiful sound in the world. I love hearing it. And it just gave me life. It was feeding my soul. Being here with them, hearing them, even if from the other room, I'm on my glowing screen to make you guys happy, but at least I'm in the same house as them. So remote work, if you can build a community in your house, I guess, build a little cult just like our friend Brian Piotr, maybe it'll work out better. These things are not simple. It's about trade-offs. What are we trading for the change in our communities? How is our civilization going to thrive and survive in the future? At 8 o'clock this morning, we're going to change topics now. At 8 o'clock this morning, we're going to bring on Jon Miltimore. He's going to connect all the dots for us. And he's going to talk about he's going to connect all of this to the cost of living crisis. And he's going to talk about how these trends are feeding one another. And, when you're isolated, every stress hits you heavier. When you're broke, every loneliness feels sharper. And when both hit at the same time, the country starts to wobble. So my message this morning is simple. America is not dead. America is not collapsing, right? America is not beyond repair. America is lonely. America is squeezed. America is exhausted. America is ready for somebody to tell the truth about why everyone feels the way that they feel. So the truth begins with connection. It begins with the courage to step back into each other's lives. And it begins with the understanding that liberty is not something that you experience alone on a couch. Liberty is something that you practice with other human beings. A republic is a team sport. A nation is a family. And a free people cannot be strangers forever. So let us take a breath. Wake up, America. And we'll talk about the truth behind the national exhaustion. This morning at 8 a.m. Central Time on the Wake Up America show, we will speak to Jon Miltimore about that on the show. All right. Settle in, guys. The second hour is where we're going to descend into the no BS zone. What happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Is an Islamic invasion into our government offices right now.
Ilhan Omar doesn't deserve committees. She absolutely does not deserve committees.
A woman out of Minnesota, now she's going into Congress and she's got to wear a head covering.
So that she can represent radical Islam in the United States Congress. And that we need to hold accountable. That right there, we've had enough of it. President Joe Biden is being pushed around by the jihad squad. So members of Congress are supporting terrorists, Hamas terrorists that are bombing Israel.
They want to put their hand on the Quran and be sworn in? No.
We're going to explain about how you can't swear in on the Quran. And we're going to have the Bible and ask them if they would swear in on the Bible.
And yes, it is an invasion. That's what happened. Obama opened up our borders to an invasion by Muslims. They did the same stupid thing in Europe.
In Europe, there are no-go zones with high crime statistics. As a matter of fact, rape is a modern occurrence that happens all the time in these no-go zones. They're claiming it's Islamophobic because Muslim men rape them, and that becomes part of the conversation.
I'm an American woman, and I have all the freedoms in the world to never have to bow to a religion that would force me to cover my body up and only see my eyes and my fingertips. And that is a major threat for all American women. And I think that's something that hits hard for all women. Anyone that is a Muslim that believes in Sharia law does not belong in our government.
Well, the bottom line is Sharia law is not compatible with America.
Yep.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Sharia law is the most brutal. It is a horrible, horrible law. They brutalize women.
True.
They throw gay people off of buildings. It is not a place for justice. No. This is a place where the men over there, they can have sex with anybody they want. They have sex with little boys, little girls, multiple women. They marry as many women as they want. They marry their sisters, their cousins. A Muslim takeover or possibly Sharia law. That is a great threat to every single American woman. And I'll maintain my right to say that I think Sharia law and women being forced to wear burqas is the greatest threat to our freedoms as American women. I am 100% opposed to Sharia law in America. 100% unapologetically opposed to Sharia law in America.
I got to speak with Marjorie Taylor Greene tonight, and I asked her one of the things I was worried about, which is all this Sharia law Muslim concern I see on X.
Oh, no, my constituents talk about the same problems that plague you and everyone on this call. I've never been to a town hall. I've never been asked about Sharia law at a town hall. I just haven't. I will tell you, I do think there's a paid social media influencer campaign going on X.
If you want Islam and Sharia law, you stay over there in the Middle East. You stay there and go to Mecca and do all your thing. And you know what? You can have a whole bunch of wives or goats or sheep or whatever you want. You stay over there. But in America, see, we made it this great, great country. We don't want it messed up.
But I think it's a lot mostly on X, and I think it is paid, and it's probably coming from Israel or AIPAC donors.
Really? That's interesting. Interesting change there. Welcome to the No Spin Zone, guys. It's the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, the place where we stop pretending the right is a serene monastery of disciplined monks and acknowledge sometimes the Republican Party looks more like Waffle House at 3 a.m. Chairs flying. Cooks are punching customers in the face. Cops are outside. Everybody's yelling. And somehow the food is still good. But that's where the MAGA movement is this morning. It's loud, it's chaotic, it's messy, and it's revealing. This weekend is one of the most dramatic plot twists of the entire post-election era. You could not script this better. Let's lay out the sequence of events so everybody understands what leveled the political landscape. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's always been kind of a patron saint of chaos. She's like the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of the Republican Party. She's the high priestess of performative populism. She got publicly disowned by the president. Not gently, not softly, not a quiet, we've agreed to part ways. Oh no. This was a excommunication from the MAGA movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene is out. It's now Marjorie Traitor Greene.
Her life could be in danger because of the rhetoric.
Her life is in danger? Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her. Okay.
Oh God, dude, that is, he is so funny. Marjorie Taylor Greene. So publicly disowned by President Trump, not gently, not softly. Trump rips the Band-Aid off of the blowtorch, calls her wacky, says she begged him for endorsements for senator and governor. And the polling was so catastrophic for her that he couldn't even throw her a pity tweet. He essentially says, sweetheart, I can't get behind you because the voters won't get you, and I have the numbers to prove it. And then she melts down. She goes full martyr. Suddenly, she's Joan of Arc at the congressional stake. She's burning alive because she's demanding the Epstein files and transparency. No, that was somebody else who was doing that, Marjorie. But the cynicism of this pivot that MTG has had, you could fuel a small city with the energy that was created in that about turn. She spent years pushing QAnon, Jewish space lasers, false flag rhetoric, and every hot glued conspiracy under the sun. But this weekend, she discovered the holy scriptures of transparency, and suddenly she's William Wallace with a ring light, right? And then just when she thought she had carved out a brand resurrection by going on CNN and talking about how toxic she was in her politics, just when she thought that she had the perfect grievance narrative to win back the MAGA movement, Trump detonated it all with a late night reversal. He comes out and said Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files. We have nothing to hide. Boom. Like that, just like that. MTG's martyrdom is canceled. The halo evaporates, the script collapses, and her entire 72-hour self-canonization efforts vaporizes like a Snapchat message. She wasn't martyred. She was replaced by Trump himself. And that, my friend, is what happens when your political identity is built on vibes instead of a true vision, like the man we're going to talk about right now. And be prepared. Prepare thy anuses, because the dildo of truth rarely arrives lubed. I'm going to give you the truth, no matter how bad it hurts. Three Dog. Ow. Here we go. Thomas Massie. Brilliant, principled, sharp as a scalpel, libertarian conservative who somehow manages to always cut himself in the process. Massie is the guy in the room who is right 80% of the time and irritating 100% of the time, right? Brilliant on policy, catastrophic on politics, great for a podcast, painful for a whip count, right? Earlier this week, Trump fires a broadside at him too, takes a jab at his remarriage. It was a cheap shot, and I don't defend that. It was wrong. It was personal. It had nothing to do with policy. But then Trump, within 48 hours, adopts Massie's signature issue outright. Transparency. Release the files. Let the chips fall where they may. Right? Massie is suddenly not alone. Right? Not because of anything that Marjorie Taylor Greene did. She didn't influence Trump. Massie did. It's his issue. It always was. Marjorie Taylor Greene just rented it. So now Massie is in the weirdest position of his career. Trump hits him. Trump adopts his position. And then Trump undermines Marjorie Taylor Greene's fake martyrdom, which actually boosts Massie's credibility. But Trump still dislikes Massie personally because Massie chooses to fight like an island instead of build like a general. The whole thing is a political Escher paintings. But here's where it gets interesting for the movement. This is not a civil war. This is a stress test, right? A maturity test. This is a purification ritual. The old version of MAGA was held together by emotional loyalty and the cult of the personality, right? But the new version, whatever version that survives, if it survives, has to be held together by ideas, by policy, by direction, by a purpose. It has to be brought together by issues like borders, energy independence, economic freedom, anti-bureaucracy, law and order, American sovereignty, and a government that fears the people and not the other way around. So the people keeping this movement alive, the MAGA people, the people who are keeping this movement small are the grifters, right? The narcissists, the chaos merchants, the influencer politicians who think that leadership is measured in retweets and not in results. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is the avatar of that. She's pure combustion with no engine attached, right? She's performance art packaged as governance, right? She's political pop rocks, loud, sweet, explosive, and ultimately hollow. But Massie, on the other hand, is the opposite problem. He is 100% engine, 0% marketing. He's a Ferrari with the aerodynamics of a filing cabinet, right? Trump is the imperfect, contradictory, chaotic middle. He's the only figure capable of bridging the populist energy with the actual institutions of power. He's the tractor that pulls the load even when the tractor blows a gasket every few miles. He will be there to get you to the next phase or get you to the next part, the next place you want to be, right? The fact is, and this is going to anger a lot of the online libertarian cultists, is that Trump has given libertarians in practice more victories than libertarians have given Trump in gratitude. Right? Cutting food tariffs, where were the cheers? Didn't hear them over the weekend. Rolling back regulations like he has done massively is libertarian. Working with Javier Milei on free trade is libertarian. Where's the love? Smashing the administrative state is libertarian. Where's the love? Nothing but sniffs and it's not good enough. And this overemphasis on foreign policy and the Epstein files, all these distractions while we're having these major economic wins, and libertarians are not part of it. There is no libertarian in the cabinet. That's not Trump's fault. That's our fault for not being serious enough or understanding how to play the game. Thomas Massie could be the head of the U.S. Department of Agriculture right now if he hadn't spit in Trump's face at the worst possible time. Libertarians should be building bridges with Trump, not turning themselves into purity spiral hermits, demanding moral perfection from others while accomplishing nothing themselves. Massie could lead this coalition if he wanted to, but instead, if he keeps performing for an audience of groypers who don't even like libertarians, they don't respect his ideas, they only respect his utility in attacking AIPAC, and they will turn on him the second he deviates from that. He's losing allies in reality to impress people in fantasy. And Trump, meanwhile, he knows how to consolidate. He knows how to move a movement. He knows how to drag the Republican Party kicking and screaming into realignment. And last night, his reversal on the Epstein files was not a weakness. That was a strategic positioning. Brilliant move, Trump. He cut MTG off. He stole her issue. He realigned himself with transparency, and he ensured that when the files come out, he's on the record as saying, open it up, rather than keeping it sealed. MTG lost her narrative. Massie lost his monopoly, and Trump regained control of the frame, right? And that's why his movement isn't collapsing. It's transforming. It's shedding dead skin. It's burning off noise. It's choosing whether to grow up or break up. The old Tea Party died because the grifters ate it alive from the inside. MAGA will die the same way unless it becomes more than just vibes and victory laps. It has to be a movement built on something foundational. But if it's a movement that's just built on influence, it will die. A movement that's built on ideas will survive, right? A movement that's built on direction wins. Libertarians are built on ideas. That's how we survived. But we have no direction, and therefore we lose. It's time for us to take the movement in a new direction. The question is now, is who represents the future for our ideas? Marjorie Taylor Greene does not. Massie could if he stops setting fire to the bridges that he needs. Trump does, whether people like it or not, because he remains the only vessel that is capable of creating a governing coalition rather than a niche subculture like we are. He represents the future to a degree. He will be taught in Western civilization classes. Will your name be mentioned alongside the greats of civilization? I wonder what you have to say about that. Here's how Massie could get back in Trump's good graces. This is what you're waiting for. This is the juicy stuff. This is going to surprise people who think that this feud is permanent between Massie and Trump. Thomas Massie is not doomed. He could get back into Trump's good graces if he chooses to play politics like a statesman instead of a seminar lecturer. Here is the roadmap. First, Massie has to stop treating coalition building like a moral contamination ritual. Trump doesn't need him to kiss the ring, but he does need Massie to stop setting off fireworks every time the movement has to move in a unified direction. Half of the reason Trump explodes at him is because Massie shows up with a blowtorch at the exact moment that the GOP is trying to pass something. And Massie needs a win. Massie needs a win, not a symbolic I voted correctly win. He needs a policy win. He needs something big. He needs something real. And it needs to be something that Trump cares about. Spending cuts, war powers reforms, surveillance rollbacks, energy deregulation. If Massie walked into the White House with a one-page reform proposal that Trump could sell as a populist victory, the entire relationship would reset instantly. And that would be good for our country. That would be good for liberty. That would be good for our movement. That would be good for all of us. But Massie has to stop playing to the Groyper gallery. Right? That fan base is a black hole. It doesn't fill you. It drains you. They don't reward statesmanship there. They reward spite and hate and division. If Massie wants Trump's respect, he needs to pivot back towards persuadable conservatives, constitutionalists, and working class populists. Those are the constituencies that Trump actually listens to. And Massie should make a public distinction between himself and Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's nuts. Not a personal distinction, perhaps. Not nasty, right? Just a clear philosophical statement. Something like, my fight is about limiting government power, not going viral. And then Trump, ironically, you have to understand, ironically or not, Trump doesn't respect attention seekers. If Massie draws that line gracefully, Trump will look at him differently. And finally, and this is the simplest piece on this, Massie needs one private conversation with Trump where the message is, we agree more than we disagree. Let's get something done. Because Trump respects people who show strength without hostility, and Massie has the strength. He just needs to lose the hostility, right? If he did that tomorrow, Trump would be back on stage calling him a smart guy, very smart, tremendous guy within a week, and we would be in a much better position as libertarians. Because at the end of the day, Trump doesn't hold grudges against people who bring him wins, only against people who bring him headaches. And Massie still gets to choose which one he wants to be. Disagree, agree, disagree, let me know. Drop some comments below. Looks like we've almost raised $100 for the first phase of the bonus content. You guys are amazing. If you haven't already, go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Your goal should be, Steph793, to have that little red castle next to your name. When you have the red castle next to your name in the chat, it means that you're special. How do you get special? You become a monthly subscriber to the show. And that helps unlock the bonus content. Steelbringer says this is big brain time. Yeah, you don't get stuff, you don't get points of view like that anywhere else. Now look, Andy, thanks to his generosity, has now brought more people into the fold. Look at all of the people with the red castles next to their name. That's the goal. Cecilia says that she has to go. Meetings. Have a great have a great day, y'all. Yes. Please write Thomas Massie and tell him, says InJam77. Listen, if they don't listen to me, they think they know everything. But my hopes were that in discussing it on the show, that segment that we just had right there might make its way to Thomas Massie's ears, or at least to some people around him. Stop holding grudges. Get over your petty grudges and get something done. Fight for liberty and win. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're going to go back to that topic about the isolation we're facing as a nation. Don't forget that if you buy 2 boxes of Founding Flavors coffee, you save $3 like our friend just did. She went and bought 2 boxes of coffee and saved $3 because of our new lower prices when you buy in bulk. Does that mean that the bonus content is unlocked? Yes, it does. Does that mean that you get to watch the fun little mini documentary now? Yes, it does. AP, can you run over the house? Absolutely not. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. It's only going to get better from here.
Cigarette taxes are costing states billions in lost revenue. Punitive levies drive black markets, fuel criminal enterprises, and, perhaps counterintuitively, help people evade the tax man. In May of this year, Customs and Border Protection, CBP officers seized 150,000 cigarettes from 2 women disembarking a cruise ship in Los Angeles. The women had 10 pieces of luggage filled with smokes they'd apparently purchased in Mexico, for which they had no import paperwork. Why would anybody try to bring over 700 cartons of cigarettes back from a Pacific cruise? Because the haul was worth an estimated $60,000, and the 2 would have had no problem selling their cargo to smokers desperate to beat California's high taxes. Those stiff levies drive buyers and money to the black market. Selling illegally imported cigarettes could yield high profits for underground vendors, commented Africa R. Bell, CBP Port Director of Los Angeles John Long Beach Seaport. Due to the low cost of cigarettes when purchased overseas and the evasion of taxes owed upon import, California charges $2.87 per pack in taxes, which rubs many state residents the wrong way. Over half, 52.54%, of cigarettes sold in the state are smuggled from elsewhere. That makes California the leading destination for smuggled cigarettes in the U.S., bumping New York from its long position at the top of the list. In neighboring Arizona, $2.0 per pack, and Oregon, $3.33 per pack, over a quarter of all cigarettes sold are smuggled, while Nevada, $1.80 per pack, is a source of cigarettes sold out of state. State governments don't make money on cigarettes smuggled in from elsewhere, which is what got the CBP port director so hot and bothered. When even vacationers see business opportunity in filling suitcases with cigarettes, it doesn't take long for the numbers to add up. The cumulative impact of annual smuggling since 2007, the first year for which we have historical data, demonstrates the severity of the issue. Excise tax policy expert Jacob McCumber-Rosen wrote this week for the Tax Foundation. Over this 17-year period from 2007 to 2023, the total loss from net cigarette smuggling exceeded $83.8 billion, which amounts to an annual average loss of $4.93 billion. Over that 17-year period, the biggest hit in foregone revenue has been to New York State, which recently increased taxes to $5.35 per pack, with another $1.50 added by New York City, and spent many years at or near the top of the list for smuggling destinations. New York has been the biggest loser by far, forgoing $21.95 billion in revenue, comments McCumber-Rosen. California comes next at $14.27 billion. Texas, which levies $1.41 per pack, ranks third with $750 billion. It stands to reason, though, that if people are smuggling cigarettes from low-tax jurisdictions to those with high taxes, sales and revenue collections must be booming for places with less burdensome taxes. We don't really know how much is raked in by Mexico, where about half of the cigarette market is off the books. But New Hampshire, $1.78 in taxes per pack, experienced the biggest gain from net cigarette smuggling, generating more than $1 billion in revenue from cigarettes purchased there but consumed elsewhere, according to the Tax Foundation. Indiana recently hiked to $2.99 per pack from $0.999, took in $848 million, and Virginia, $0.60 per pack, reaped $574 million. As the numbers show, high tax and low tax are relative terms. New Hampshire is a net supplier of cigarettes, with about a third of those sold in the state transported elsewhere. This despite the state having higher taxes than Texas, a net recipient of smuggled cigarettes which account for 1/5 of its market. It's all about your advantage or disadvantage relative to your neighbors, and almost everybody has an advantage if they're reasonably close to the ravenous revenue appetites of New York or Massachusetts, $3.51 per pack. Smuggling across state lines isn't the only way to beat the tax man. Illicit factories, often producing counterfeit cigarettes sold under major brand names, offer a more sophisticated way to beat taxes. In April, CBP officers in Laredo, Texas, seized a cargo of counterfeit cigarettes loaded in Vietnam that was estimated to be worth $700,000. That pales in comparison to a $2.3 million haul in 2020. Taking a different tack, the Mohawk tribe claims exemption from taxes in the US and Canada, those countries' governments don't agree, and produces cigarettes under house brands sold in a gray market. The connecting thread is the widespread desire among consumers to escape draconian taxes imposed by government officials who see smokers simultaneously as moral lepers to be punished and cash cows to be milked. The twin goals of suppressing tobacco consumption and collecting revenue are mutually exclusive, but logic has never been the strong point of those drawn to government office. Besides, motivations are irrelevant when the end point is the same: business opportunities for those willing to evade the law to connect eager sellers with willing buyers. Tax rate differentials between states are a primary driver of cigarette smuggling, McCumber-Rosen notes for the Tax Foundation. The larger the difference in tax rates, the more money that can be saved by driving across state lines to purchase products in lower tax jurisdictions. Sometimes this happens casually, with individuals cross-border shopping for cigarettes for personal consumption in nearby low-tax states, tax avoidance, while other times this happens commercially via a large-scale criminal enterprise, tax evasion. These organized criminal enterprises, often operating out of China, may counterfeit tax stamps, sell counterfeit cigarettes, or deal in prohibited products. Age restrictions, bans on flavored products, and restrictive laws that seek to limit or prohibit consumers' access to goods that run afoul of officials' disapproval also fuel black market activity. Ultimately, less revenue is collected than might be gained with lower taxes, and activities the government dislikes continue with the assistance of black market suppliers. Prohibition offered a huge lesson in the inevitable limits of restrictive policies that government officials refuse to learn, leaving them frustrated over their failures when it comes to tobacco or other goods like marijuana and vapes. Obviously, consumers are the beneficiaries of black markets that help them evade high taxes and other legal hurdles. But so are criminals, whose enterprises are funded and empowered by restrictive policies. Cigarette smuggling is a highly profitable but comparatively low-risk criminal enterprise that generates billions in profits, adds Macumber Rosen. Sometimes these profits are funneled to more dangerous activities like global terrorism. Smoking rates have declined for decades in a trend unaffected by tax rates. Government officials can't accelerate that process with punitive policies. They can only hurt themselves and empower criminals. As in all things, the best policy for government is to stay out of the way and leave smokers alone.
Define communism for me.
Define communism from each according to their abilities to each according to their needs. Yeah, it just doesn't scale. Everyone is a communist. All of you are communists with your family. If you've got kids, you're a fucking communist at home. Each according to their needs, you take care of them. Of course you do. And as things get white in your local community, you might be a socialist. Try and help everyone out. And then you get up to nation state level and you go, yeah, fuck those guys. There's always going to be an in-group preference. I'm sorry, but you human beings, unlucky. The problem with American communism, which is, woke, is better described as American Marxism. And what it is instead of trying to redistribute wealth, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to want to do, they want to redistribute status. And that is a recipe for fucking madness. Hang on. Sorry. Some young men looking at me like, yeah, great. We're going to need some dick jokes. No problem. I'm on. Don't think I'm not on it, fellas.
I don't know, but it was funny. Welcome to the Wake of America show. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. If you can take a few dirty jokes in the morning, then you might be in the right place. Click the like button, follow as well. I love seeing all of those castles next to everybody's name. It means that you're all becoming monthly subscribers. Thank you, Andy Opperman. Thank you, Joni Rankin. So many of you have been so financially generous that we unlocked even phase 2 of the bonus content today. You're just showering me with money. What am I, a stripper? All right, guys, let's get down to brass tacks. The Wall Street Journal reports President Trump's team has been working overtime since the midterm warning shot, trying to push down prices anywhere they can. They're rolling back tariffs on coffee, beef, nuts, fruits, spices, products that hit working families the hardest. Joining us now to discuss that, as well as all the new offshore drilling proposals to bring down the energy costs, drug price negotiations, and maybe a $2,000 stimmy. Jon Miltimore, it's Mondays with Miltimore. Hey, John, how are you going to spend your stimmy? Guns?
Hey, good morning, AP. Did you say 200 or 2,000?
Oh,
what are we
$2,000. $2,000 stimmy.
You know what? We don't need stimulus checks, right? Can we just put those away? Let's not normalize that. I'm having flashbacks of the pandemic. Make it stop. Just get them out of our life. Stop taking from us.
If anybody doesn't want their stimulus check on principle, if they start handing them out, I will graciously accept yours because it's my money.
Honestly, though, can we just have them stop taking from us to give us our money back and then make us feel like, hey, look, government's raining money on you?
But President Trump giveth and he taketh away. Let's talk about what's happening, John, because let's start big. Because earlier, before we get to the tariffs and all the economic melo, I was talking about this article in the Wall Street Journal at the top of the show about how America feels more isolated than ever and more economically squeezed than ever. How much of America's current mood do you think comes from the double hit of loneliness plus the rising costs?
No, it's real. I did see a speaker just address this recently. and he talked about it. He said being alone, and this was a medical doctor of some kind. I didn't catch his name. It was one of those things you saw on Twitter, but it rang true. It is actually worse for you than drinking. And he said this idea that, it's been harder on Gen X, or excuse me, millennials, Gen Z, this new generation. They don't have offices, right? Like working remotely, has adverse effects in some ways. In some ways, it's convenient. And I can tell you, as a young man, I tried working from home. I was about 30. And just got married. I hated it. I found myself antsy. I did it for 9 months. Said I can't do this. Later, after we had kids, it was just a different part of my life. It's worked great. But I think for the average person, getting to the office has benefits. And if you're one of those lucky people, I think you can maybe do a 3-day a week in the office and a couple days at home, so you don't have to be commuting every day, because that can be a pain too. But yeah, social isolation is a bad thing, and I see everyone championing this idea that people are drinking less. Well, get out to a bar once in a while, hang out with people, talk to people. Don't shelter yourself at home, with video games and TikTok. And, humans need connection. So get out there and get some of that. The fact that, I think Americans are lonely, they're isolated. And then, you throw in some of this is a bad economy. I don't care what anybody, people are trying to paint it up like they did during the Biden years. Like, hey, everything's great. No, for some people it is, it's for the asset class, it's not so bad. I think for a lot of people, this is a very rough economy.
Yeah, I agree, John. It's something that I think the recent election should have sent up the flares for anybody who is into electoral politics, because at this moment, we're all looking down the barrel of a gun with midterms if things don't start to change economically. Then the White House is responding. Say what you will about Donald Trump, but when they see problems, they pivot. The White House, they're racing to cut tariffs. They're trying to negotiate drug prices down. Some of the prices I've seen in terms of price drops for what the marketing is saying would be phenomenal if they could accomplish it, John. But they're even floating direct payments in terms of healthcare, which, like it or not, John, this healthcare system is a mess. You and I want abolition of the system, but at least the Trump administration seems to be trying to do something to bring prices down. I don't know if it will have the intended impact. It'll probably move things from one area to another. But at the end of the day, if we're cutting tariffs, at least if we're trying to get some drug prices down, if he's going after the monopolies of the beef industry, I mean, you got to understand that this deal that Trump did with Argentina and in terms of trying to bring down the beef prices here in the United States, it's shockingly libertarian, John. I don't know if you know how much of the details about this, but essentially it undercuts the big four big ag corporations that control all the beef production in this country. I mean, at this point, I guess my question here is how much of the cost of living crisis do you think that the president can actually fix? And how much of this do you think is outside the reach of the Oval Office?
The first thing they can do is reverse these tariffs that they've imposed and that they've been promising over and over. These aren't inflationary. And we've actually seen them finally, at least out of one side of their mouth, finally admit that no, these are raising prices. Scott Bessent went on television and said it. So we're gonna get rid of these tariffs on coffee and beef and on all these tropical fruits, and that will see prices come down immediately. It of course invites the question: why were they there in the first place? Why are we putting tariffs on these goods? Especially some of these goods, we're not even producing these things at home. The idea of like the whole selling point was always protectionism, right? Like we're going to protect our local industries. How many coffee growers do you know, Austin? How much coffee do we grow in the United States? What was the purpose of this tariff on all these exporters from Brazil and Colombia and Switzerland? It was making you can see it. We have good data on this. Coffee has doubled in price. That's one thing. If you want to look at, that's a relative price. If we want to look at the broad, the CPI index, inflation had bottomed out. It reached a 4-year low in April. Like Trump had promised, we're gonna grind inflation to a halt. They were doing it, and then he announced his Liberation Day tariffs. And what have we seen since then? We've seen every month prices go up and up and up. Now they're up over 3% again, annualized inflation. That's where he started. So inflation was crashing. his tariffs brought them up. Now, it wasn't just his tariffs. We've eased monetary policy a little bit. And that to some extent is out of Trump's hands. He doesn't have much control over that. I'd say no control. He should have, but we see how he leans on Jerome Powell. But this is step one, is just get rid of these tariffs, and that's going to ease prices. Bessent said that. He's right. The problem is, even as Bessent's saying that, the White House is putting out, trumpeting this report that says, tariffs are actually deflationary. And they're saying, see, we're right. And if you look at the nuts of that report, if you go in there and it says, well, historically, it's not looking at anything recent, it's looking at the last 150 years, it found that overall, tariffs tend to be deflationary because they kill economic growth and they increase unemployment. So I don't know if they've learned anything or not. I'm happy to see these tariffs unwinding, though.
Yeah, no, it's a shocking about face for the White House. And honestly, as much as I despise the tariffs and argued against them, John, I'm actually really proud of the White House for seeing the reality and changing their position. In my position, Camelia is over there on the chat, and she's like, I'm almost black-pilled on this administration. I actually see this as something hopeful, something optimistic. I'm always trying to find a silver lining in the cloud. I think that this is fantastic. This is great news. This is a win for our policy proposals in my mind. And I think we should give Trump some of the credit, not just because he's absolutely right, but because it's probably a good idea for us to be in Trump's good graces, which is going to be my question towards the end here of our interview, John. Because I have a theory about how we might be able to get Thomas Massie back in Donald Trump's good graces, despite all of the venom and nastiness over the weekend. We'll get to that in just a minute. Some of the biggest price drops they could come from cutting tariffs. I know what you're talking about. You brought up coffee. Here I am with a coffee business, and this stuff affects me now. The biggest part of my business now, John, is coffee. So when things move on coffee, I get a little nervous. The fact is, John, the big corporations, they can get the price of this stuff down and sell it at Hy-Vee for $7 a bag. And me with shipping, you buy one box, it's $23.99. You buy two, you get $3 off. Buy three, get but not just to plug, but these are real tensions, and people who are dependent on these products. Coffee is one thing; it's an addictive chemical. People might say, "Oh, maybe it's not necessary," but I feed my daughter ground beef. I feed my daughter the healthy ground beef, the 90% lean ground beef that is $10 for a pound of it if you order a pound at a time. But if you go to Sam's Club, you can get 5 for 10. But nevertheless, these are important calculations that families are making for their budget in order to feed their children. So this is a huge win, not just for libertarians on the policy front. We get to say, we were right. But also, it's just a damn good thing for Americans because we need access to this supply, don't we?
Well, we really do. And, we can roll out, inflation numbers. You can roll out GDP numbers. You can do all those things. The hamburger helper index is up. And I don't know if you know this. New York Times had a story on this a while back. And we ran something very recently on the Daily Economy. Families are loading up on hamburger helper. And historically, what you see is that's it. Families are saying, I can't afford the beef right now, or I can't afford the burgers. They're going to make more hamburger helper because it's just a cheaper meal. And we see a lot more Americans doing that right now. These food prices, we need to work at those to come down. The biggest thing Trump can do is this was an unforced error. We didn't need to do this. And this whole idea that we're going to be an independent economy, that we don't need to import goods from our neighbors, that was a bad idea. And I'm glad that you're a half glass full guy, Austin, that you look at this and you say, hey, this is, gives Trump some credit. He's recognizing his own policies weren't working. He's changing them. I'm probably closer to Camellia on this. I feel more black-pilled. I still can't see Trump coming on and saying, you know what, that was a mistake on our part. I own that. He'll still kind of, I think there are people in the White House that convinced him, like, Mr. President,
why is that so important?
You need to fix this.
Why is the humiliation ritual so important for libertarians? I do not understand it.
I don't need to humiliate anyone. I'm just saying, like if somebody got a policy wrong and say, you know what, like we looked at these tariffs, maybe this was ill thought.
No,
I think that's important.
No, I don't know. It's not important. What's important?
You don't believe it's important to know like a good policy from a bad policy?
No, it's not. It's important to do a good policy. I'll take a complete retard who lands on libertarian policies that actually happen than the genius Misesian economist who comes out and makes public displays about why it's a good idea. I think that's a complete wrong way to look at things. I would rather have the libertarian policy than I would rather have the humiliation ritual of coming out and saying all this kind of stuff. I think this is part and parcel of why we lose. And now it brings me to my final question here, because I've actually argued that Thomas Massie, with this Epstein file stuff, he's not actually doomed here. I think that he could actually get back in Trump's good graces, and that would be good for him. And by proxy, that would be good for all of us. If Massie pivoted away from the Groyper crowd and instead brought Trump something real, like a policy win or like on spending cuts, something, war powers, maybe surveillance. I'm not sure what it could be. Some kind of win that Trump could sell to the base as not betraying his people, because a lot of people hate Thomas Massie with the power of 1,000 suns right now. So in other words, stop creating headaches for the president and start delivering victories that don't compromise your principles. I mean, you're black-pilled perhaps, but I mean, do you recognize that there might need to be a strategic recalibration here and that constant war with the president is not in our best interests? Or do you think, no, we need to constantly make war on him like some other libertarians do?
You know, I think you're framing this the wrong way. I mean, I don't think it's you're putting the onus on lawmakers who are simply asking Trump to do what he said he was going to do during the campaign and to release those files. That's all they're asking. And this idea that lawmakers who are saying, well, no, we said we were going to do this, we really should do that they're waging war on the administration over that. I think that framing is wrong. The second part of this, I don't know Thomas Massie personally. We're Twitter friends. That's it. Never met him. So maybe he's a bigger man than me, but I think the idea of repairing that bridge for me would be over once Trump on Truth Social started to say, I got married too quickly. My wife was hardly in the grave. And then you have the Trump ally, Laura Loomer, who's suggesting that it might have been a death that was, not accidental. And what do we know? It's crazy stuff. It's absolutely crazy stuff. And Massie is not the aggressor here. Massie's a victim. This is awful. What I've seen.
A victim.
This is awful. What I've seen.
I don't respect victims, John. I don't respect victims. Not in politics.
I'm saying he is the one that has been. He's been attacked in a way.
I'm not defending.
Here's what. Let me just finish my point, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So in a different age, for me, because it would have been pistols at dawn. Like there's no repairing that. Once you go there with my wife, like you're saying with my dead wife, you start to do this. It was beyond the pale.
That is a terrible attitude. You cannot make it personal. You cannot get things accomplished.
That's why I'm not in politics.
Well, yes, that's right, John. That is why you're not in politics. You cannot accomplish anything for your cause if you put your own personality and your own personal questions before the body politic. Thomas Massie is an elected representative. He's not there to get into shitfests with the president and fight personal spats. He's there to advance legislation that represents the will of his constituents. And to a broader extent, he represents the libertarian movement in the United States. If he rejects the secondary questions, that's fine. I still see it that way and see him that way as a representative and a voice of what we have. And frankly, I don't want to defend him and his wife. That's not my job. I'm here to advance the ideas of liberty. So anything about defending his personality, his wife, and all that kind of shit, that takes a back seat to actually passing libertarian legislation, in my opinion, John.
Who brought that up? Who brought his wife into it?
John, you're not getting my point. My point is that it doesn't matter. He's going to take, if you come for the king, you better cut off his head, or you're going to face the consequences of such. And you cannot pass legislation without the executive who is there to sign the pen. Thomas Massie will never pass it, but from between now, you want to talk about lame ducks? Between now until the end of Thomas Massie's next term or Trump's 4 years, let's say Thomas Massie goes back, he probably will. He won't do anything. He will get nothing done because the president is guaranteed to torpedo anything that comes off of his desk. But that can change. Here's the thing. That can change because if Thomas Massie gets over his own ego and the attacks that are put on him. It was what you have to do when you're in that situation. You have to get over your ego. If he can get over that, then he can actually say, you know what, Mr. President, thank you for adopting my signature move. And now we can both have wins, and they can both win, and then everybody wins. That's how everybody wins, John. But we don't win by saying, no, I've got to throw a shit fest because somebody came after me for getting remarried to a younger woman. Nobody cares. It changes nothing.
I think any person, any politician that goes there is somebody, I don't want to be on that team. That's how I feel. Well, I'm tired of those antics. I think it is beneath the office of the presidency, and I find it absolutely appalling. And you know, Massie, maybe he doesn't pass legislation. I'm with Calvin Coolidge. I think it's far more important to kill bad bills than to pass good bills. And if Massie doesn't go get his name on a piece of legislation, I certainly won't care. Maybe he will. I doubt it.
Well, you don't care, but guess what? People who want to see more libertarian laws in this country do care. And I have a right to care, right? I have a right to care about whether or not my congressman actually does anything that improves the lives of their constituents. And I think that the people who live in Thomas Massie's district, they deserve that same level of representation. We deserve a libertarianism that wins, John. We deserve a Javier, or maybe we don't. You know, I think with this attitude, we probably don't deserve a Javier Milei in this country because we don't have the balls. We don't have the balls to get over our own egos. We want to have shit fest and shit fights on Twitter. You're smiling because I think you see that there's a grain of truth to what I'm talking about right here. So let me ask you, do we deserve libertarian leaders who win, or do we deserve what we've gotten before, which is nothing, which is shit? Do we continue to fight over our hot young wives, or do we do something that actually improves people's lives, John? It's that simple.
I'll answer your question by saying I don't think Massie or Marjorie Taylor Greene or any of them who said we think we should actually, you know, release these files as we campaigned on, as lawmakers around the country did, as the president himself did, say we think we should actually release these. I don't think it's wrong to say we campaigned on this. We want to do that. And you know, for him to get attacked over that and say, now you're a traitor, I find that very odd. I find it almost a little cult-like. How you had people, you can go see them as well. People that were all excited in January this year, like release the Epstein files. And now that Trump is saying, well, no, we don't actually want to do that. They're saying, no, this is a Democratic hoax. It's crazy to me.
You should know better than anyone that government is a cheese grater, and that when you put people into it, they're going to get sliced up. It's just, I didn't expect to get everything that we already got. I didn't expect the first time he ran, I didn't trust him at all completely. And he racked up more wins for libertarianism, John. He has racked up more actual wins for libertarianism than any libertarian in the United States. Right. The only person who has racked up more wins for libertarianism in the last few years has been Javier Milei, and he's not in the United States. But you know what libertarians in the United States have done? Wrote white papers, gave speeches, made podcasts, talked shit about Donald Trump, booed him when he showed up to our convention, talked shit about him before, talked shit about him after. No thanks, no gratitude, no attempts at coalition. Trump has treated libertarians far better than libertarians have treated Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has done a lot of libertarian things. And Thomas Massie has done how many libertarian things? How many libertarian things has Massie done that has changed lives, John? How many libertarian things?
I think he has done much more for the movement than Donald Trump.
I think you know the answer. Fuck the movement. We're talking about the country. Who has done more libertarian things for the people of the United States? Donald Trump or Thomas Massie?
I can't listen to what you're saying and believe that you're saying Donald Trump is a libertarian.
How many regulations has Massie overturned? How many?
Do you think Donald Trump has made our country freer?
It's a number. Yes, I do think Trump.
Okay.
I just watched Walt Disney this week quietly deep six all of their DEI shit from their corporate meetings. First time in 5 years that they've axed all the DEI stuff. We're winning, but libertarians can't take the W. How many regulations has Massie overturned? Boom. How many has Donald Trump? Lots. It's time to look at what actually matters to the American people, not to the movement, not to the politicos or the influencers, but actual wins for liberty. John, is that Is that lighting a fire under your black-pilled butt or not?
I just haven't. What legislation has Trump signed that actually did any of this?
Listen, John, if you're not going to watch the Wake Up America show, all right, and you're going to be on it every Monday.
I'd like to see some institutional change here. I'd like to see legislation brought that actually, rolls back government. Instead, what we have here is an imperial presidency who really does govern by whim. And I don't see anything libertarian about that.
Okay.
I don't see that in advancing freedom.
Listen, I have put out PDFs. I have written blogs. I have a whole list of libertarian wins that the Trump administration has brought us. And if you would deign to read it, I would share those with you.
How many of those are executive orders versus actually something that is going to survive?
Who cares?
Oh, you don't see a difference?
What can he do? His power is limited.
That
shows that
the Republicans control
working.
The Senate. They control the House.
No, they don't.
You should be able to build a coalition and get legislation.
They'd have to nuke the filibuster if they wanted to get any of their real accomplishments across the floor.
Not for everything. You don't need to do that for.
You do need to do it for a lot of things.
You can pass legislation
without.
No,
he can't because he's got a bunch of loony. He's got a bunch of Looney Tunes like Marjorie Taylor Greene blowing up his spot every time he tries to get something done. I got my next guest coming up, John. Thank you for debating with me.
I think the
commenters are on your side, but thank you very much. We'll see you next Monday. All right. Well, there it is. So I've got Remso Martinez, and he and I are going to go back and forth, and maybe he'll beat me up on that too. How do you guys feel? It's not Marjorie Taylor Greene anymore. It's Austin Trader Peterson. No. Boo, throw tomatoes, but in your heart, I'm right. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the 4 Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at 4libertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at 4libertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at 4libertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at 4libertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have Drag Queen Story Hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third? Huh.
The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest against mediocrity.
Her life is in danger. Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her. Okay, what about you?
All right, guys, time to talk about the earthquake shaking the right. The fireworks in the MAGA world have gone from sparks to a full-blown electrical fire. President Trump has publicly severed ties with Marjorie Taylor Greene, withdrew his endorsement of her, called her wacky, ranting, and far left, and promising to back a primary challenger. He says that she begged him for endorsements for Senate and governor, and that the polling showed she would get crushed, even with his support. And Greene, for her part, is trying to turn this into an Epstein Transparency Martyr Act, claiming that she's been targeted for wanting the DOJ files released. She's framing herself as being persecuted. She says that Trump is putting her life in danger. Then, meanwhile, Congressman Thomas Massie he's brilliant at policy, terrible at the politics of a coalition. He's drifted towards an online Groyper audience that doesn't even like libertarians, and now Trump is taking personal shots at him, including a jab at his remarriage that absolutely crossed a line. The media is calling this a MAGA civil war, but I think that's the wrong framing. Joining us now to discuss this is a man who knows a thing or two about politics. Remso Martinez, creator of Marketer on the Run. He's a strategist who understands political branding better than most consultants in DC. He is a man who can spot a collapsing narrative from a mile away and explains how a movement saves itself from its own clowns. Remso Martinez, good morning.
Austin, talk about a wild time to be alive. You know, it's November. It's November. A year ago, we were all celebrating. A year ago, we were all winning. And within a year, it seems that people don't seem to have their heads screwed on right one way or another. I hate to see it.
So big picture first, what does the Trump MTG Massie triangle tell you about the current state of the MAGA brand? Is this a collapse or is it a correction?
It's definitely a correction, because a collapse would mean that, you know, especially heading into a midterm year, it would show that people are actively rejecting, people are actively fighting against. If we had people saying, hey, we're not voting Republican, we're voting Democrat, if you had folks saying you shouldn't vote at all, that's a sign of a collapse. Once the moment you get action that takes away the progress and the results of the party that you seem to be part of. This correction seems to be focused on the issues while at the same time pulling up the personal drama as additional collateral to go ahead and throw around your weight. If you're Marjorie Taylor Greene going after Trump, saying that he's protecting Epstein and pedophiles, or if you're Trump saying these people are not playing ball, they're not helping us push our Republican agenda. Of course, the politics of personal business has gone become very personal. But, you know, to look at some of the other things outside of the Epstein issue, which has definitely not been something that has remotely disappeared this year. I mean, the fact that we're still talking about this in November shows that, you know, this definitely has some staying power. But, you know, when you look at Trump's comments on the H-1B issue, when you look at his comments regarding the state of American workers, in which he said, you know, we don't necessarily have the best and brightest coming in, that was certainly going to rub people the wrong way. Now, I have this rule. I take Trump seriously. I don't take Trump literally. I don't think that Trump was basically saying we need to flood our country with Indians. I don't think Trump was saying that Americans are stupid. I think what Trump is saying is what Trump has always said, which is America needs to compete. And, you know, there's multiple ways of going about that, but people want a literalist answer from a man who likes to keep his cards close sometimes. Watch what Trump does. Don't necessarily listen to what Trump says. We've had since 2015 to go ahead and understand this. You and I have had to understand this from the man way more than most people. In terms of Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, though, you know, they have definitely tried to take the America First idea. And to their credit, they're great at calling out Trump when he's doing stuff that does not appear America First. Rand Paul does well. So the big question is, especially when you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who very publicly has, you know, higher ambitions, we're already looking at the midterms. And here's what's going to happen. If Democrats go ahead and maintain a majority in the House or the Senate, they will go ahead and absolutely impeach Trump for something. I think they are using the Epstein files as their way to go ahead and push an impeachment. And right now, what it looks like is that you're going to definitely get Republicans in the House, a couple, and it definitely appears like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene would be part of that. So you can't necessarily determine how they would go on those impeachment hearings, despite the fact that it appears as though they would lean towards impeachment. And then we definitely know, watching the last year of Republicans, that we're going to have a small contingent of Republicans who can coalition with the Democrats in the Senate, and they could go ahead and approve those impeachment procedures. So right now, what we're looking at is a 2-year period of lame duck Trump, who once again has been impeached for the third time. That's what people are gambling with. I don't think they understand how serious this is. The Democrats tell you what they want to do. So if we want to go ahead and actually play 2028 offensively instead of defensively, we have to really ask ourselves, what is worth it right now? Because we can fight with each other, but I don't think we want to go ahead and destroy ourselves just so the Democrats can go ahead and put in the same horrible actions over and over again that we can guarantee they will enact. It's this threat of, oh, well, you know, if it's worth it to get the you know, this piece of justice out or the truth out, it's all worth it if we have to go ahead and destroy ourselves. We're the only side in America that does that. And we can play this purity test, but where we can go ahead and observe this for what it is. It's personal grudges. It's a misplaced political strategy. And when it comes to the Epstein situation, even if God himself came down and told people the truth, you would still have people saying, nah, I don't believe the evidence.
This is good stuff, Remso, and that's why you're one of the most coveted marketers in the industry at Marketer on the Run. You understand audiences better than most. I've a couple of questions. One, let's look at MTG first. So she's clearly going through a rebrand. So she's now shifted from Trump's ride or die to she's an Epstein crusader. You know, she's going on CNN saying she's sorry for engaging in toxic politics. She's getting lauded on The View. Is this desperation on her part, or do you think that it's wise strategy?
It depends on how she's looking at things. If she's looking at things as I need to stay in power and I have higher aspirations, she's already looking post-Trump. And we definitely saw this in 2020 when you had a lot of folks looking post-Trump because they went ahead and immediately dropped him after January 6th and everything else. They're like, okay, you know what? The MAGA brand is dead. It's not working. Americans have obviously rejected it. We need to go ahead and hard course correct. Obviously, those folks have been rejected. The Nikki Haley's of the world, the Chris Christie's of the world, they don't get a say. But what MTG is trying to do is she's trying to go ahead and pull the Jeff Flake card. She's trying to say, well, it's not that I'm turning left. It's not that I'm becoming more moderate. It's that I'm actually more conservative than the president. It's that he's not actually a good ambassador of America first. But look at the words we're using. We're still using MAGA. We're still using America first. We can never go ahead and get away from Trump. The first rule of the 48 laws of power, according to Robert Greene, is don't outdo the master. And she can go ahead and try and pivot in what is a purple state, the purple state of Georgia. She can try and pivot, but people don't forgive if they're on the left. The left will go ahead and look at everything you've ever done, and they don't forgive you because if at the end of the day, they go ahead and praise her and elevate her, she's only the useful idiot. Because when they have to go to the ballot box against her and a Democrat, they're 100% going to go ahead and go for the Democrat. And then all those nice things they said, they immediately revoke. Liz Cheney is not a friend of Democrats unless she is used as a weapon and a tool against Republicans.
And that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene will become, is she becomes the Liz Cheney of the party to some extent. I mean, it's a fascinating transition because I think she feels like it's about Trump not being around for very long, so she hopes to claim his mantle. But he's got plenty of time to bury her before she even gets out of the gate on this whole Joan of Arc, I'm being martyred situation. But this brings us to the actual martyr in this, Thomas Massie, who I believe does want to actually get something done. And now Trump is adopting his signature issue. And I've been saying this morning, much to the chagrin of libertarians who are very mad at me for saying this right now, that Massie could spin this into a win and go into the White House and say, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to let's get back together. But I just got done talking to Jon Miltimore before you, and he said, after somebody said something like that about my wife, I would stand up and destroy it. And I'm like, well, that's why you shouldn't be in politics, man, because you've got to be able to put the political above the personal. But people don't elect these representatives to go in there and fight about their, new wives. They elect you to actually get something done. And if Massie can do that, and then deliver let's say he could deliver Trump some win, then Trump would pivot on Massie the same way he just pivoted on the Epstein files. Is my strategy out of whack? Am I sounding like too much of a neocon collaborationist traitor? I don't know, Remso, or is there a method to my madness?
I think there's a method to the madness, and you hit the nail right on the head. You want to go ahead and look at two people who got really vicious with each other and are actually working together to, help this country. Look at Trump's most improved player on the team, Marco Rubio. I was joking a couple of weeks ago that almost everybody, including Alex Jones himself, has forgotten about the phone parties in Miami from 2015. Like, this man is now the Secretary of State, and he's doing a lot of really good work, and people are very happy with him. I was never a Marco Rubio fan, have not been for a very long time, but I can definitely say that he's come around to the team, and he's playing ball, and he's getting work done, and I like what I'm seeing.
Same. So I was so shocked. He dismantled U.S. aid. And libertarians are still like, Marco Rubio. I'm like, actually, that's kind of the perfect job for him. But continue, Remso.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you have to accept the nature of politics for what it is and not for what you want it to be. We're not perfect angels. We're fallen people. And when it comes to getting things done, the difference between like a Marjorie Taylor Greene and a Thomas Massie in the situation is that Massie is behaving now exactly as he's always behaved. And we have the first Trump administration to observe that. We have the Biden years to observe that. If anybody gets the benefit of, hey, I don't think he's doing this out of personal grudges, it's absolutely Thomas Massie. And I agree with you. For the president to go ahead and pull that reversal, I think you went ahead and reposted it to your X feed. I would be celebrating him. I would be putting him in a situation where he has to reject the thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great idea, Mr. President. You're going to a man whose ego is usually one of his biggest priorities. How can he say no to that? How can he say, I don't want your thank you, I don't want your praise, this was my idea the entire time? That just doesn't happen. So he could absolutely go ahead and pivot this. People acting like they don't know what Trump is doing, like they don't know who Trump is. I don't know if they've been hiding under a rock for a decade or more, but this is just what he does. He's not necessarily nice, but we didn't want a nice president. We wanted an effective president.
Damn right, Remso Martinez, you beautiful, beautiful man. I'm going to say something, Remso. I'm going to drop a bomb right now, and it's going to make my audience really angry. But this is how you know that I am a true blue libertarian, that I am not a real libertarian, which means, of course, that you're a real libertarian when you're not a real libertarian. But I digress. One of my arguments is that Trump has actually delivered more libertarian and libertarian adjacent wins than libertarians have delivered for him. Do you think that libertarians misunderstand coalition building in this current scenario, in this current fight? Do you think that Massie is making a mistake by making an enemy out of the president?
I think time is ultimately going to tell that one. There's many ways to go ahead and respond to things, and there's how you respond to the accuser, and there's how you respond to your own defenders. I think that Trump is obviously listening to more of the critics who are attacking him because of what he said to Massie than what Massie has said himself. Massie has largely, and while he did go ahead and respond to Trump's remarks about him remarrying recently, they were largely just matter of fact. Trump really goes after people based off how people go after him with their audiences. And what he definitely sees, and this is what we're seeing with this Kentucky primary in his district, is that ultimately Massie doesn't need Trump. Trump needs Massie. But that's not to say that it's totally, one-sided in this situation. As I mentioned, if this gets worse, if this escalates even further, we might possibly have a situation where Democrats come back in January of 2027, and people are curious as to whether or not Massie would vote for an impeachment, specifically if he's impeached regarding the Epstein files. So I think Trump is looking at his audience, which is largely saying, burn the ships. This is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, look who is in power. Look who has the veto pen. Look who can actually bring people together. You think he went ahead and kissed up around Mike Johnson because he necessarily loves him? Trump knew that he needs to have a speaker who's in his corner. So, of course, he brought him to the UFC fights and had him eat McDonald's on a plane with the cool kids. Libertarians have never understood coalitions until Angela McArdle's brave move in 2024. And all I need to do is say this: Ross Ulbricht is free. Ross Ulbricht is free.
Yeah, and so is Roger Ver.
Yeah.
And my thing is that libertarians, they have treated Donald Trump like trash. So even in the first administration, I was talking a little bit earlier about like a lot of the libertarian wins that Trump has had. Has he done on libertarian stuff? Yeah, absolutely. And we hear about that nonstop. So when I come in and I'm like, well, look at this regulation or look at this bill. Look, he just dropped the tariffs. Shouldn't we celebrate? No celebration. No, continue fire and flames. And I'm just watching this whole exchange with Massie and MTG. She doesn't have any bridges left to burn. Massie could build some bridges here and deliver some wins for the libertarian movement, but I'm getting real tired of the whole I'm a political libertarian who does nothing, and I get to celebrate doing nothing by saying, oh, well, at least better doing nothing is better than doing the bad somethings that these people are doing. Well, that works really well on Facebook, and it'll get you a lot of likes on Twitter and reposts and comments. Here's a phrase here's something that isn't going to get a lot of likes on Facebook or Twitter. If I tweeted this, it would disappear because it wouldn't find an audience, but it is the hidden truth that no one wants to accept. is that Trump has done many libertarian things policy-wise, and Massie has passed 0 bills for our libertarian ideas. And if he cannot accomplish anything because he's essentially a lame duck, because anything that comes out of his desk is toxicity, then we lose as a movement, and his constituents lose. Trump has done some libertarian things. We should work with him on those things, expand those things. And when he does non-libertarian things, we can just quietly walk away, because at the end of the day, we benefit more than we lose. This is a strategy. It's Machiavellianism. It's Robert Greene. It's the laws of power. It's law number 1 and its other laws. It's not pretty, but it's how things work. Am I crazy, Remso? Should I not be saying these things? If I wanted to protect myself, I shouldn't be saying these kinds of things on my show, should I?
You're the canary in the coal mine, Austin. Ultimately, we need to ask this: who benefits ultimately from America's best Congressman, Thomas Massie, fighting against the most libertarian achieving president of our lifetime? At the end of the day, all I need to know is this, and I said this during the results of the recent elections in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Charlie Kirk took a bullet for America less than a month and a half ago, and Democrats celebrated. That's all I need to know about these people. I don't care about our own inter-party spats.
Yeah,
we have a country on the line.
I don't care that, is it inappropriate what Donald Trump said about Massie's wife? Yes. Does it matter as much as us fighting the people who murdered Charlie Kirk and celebrated it? No, it doesn't matter. It does not in the grand scheme of things. I appreciate that, Remso. You've always been a very intelligent man. Is there anything else that we have missed on this? Any important points? Or maybe you've got a plug that you'd like to share before we let you go?
Well, we've always got spicy comments over at Hey Remso, that's HEYREMSO on X, and people can go ahead and learn more about me, especially if they want to avoid bonehead situations at marketerontherun.com. Thank you, Austin.
Marketerontherun.com. That's Remso Martinez at Hey Remso over on X. Thank you, Remso. We appreciate your points of view. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Thank you. You've unlocked the bonus content phase 2. You guys have been so generous this morning. I'm just blown away. Even though I've been saying some mean things about our heroes, and maybe being a little bit tougher than people like Camellia would like, but nonetheless, you have been financially generous, and for that you'll be rewarded. Now we'll have a $200 level. We've raised $150, so we're going to play the Great Grift Off Liberty Loot Live, and I'm going to open it up to everybody. Everybody can play. What do you say? Because I've got a subscription for another couple of weeks, and so let's take advantage of it. Normally we can have 10 players. Today, we're going to have everybody play, and everybody has a chance to win a great prize from the Grift Shop. Brad, I'm going to take it easy for you. You don't have to worry about texting your game code. We're just going to open it up to everybody. What do you say? You guys want to play the game? Great Grift Off. You're going to see the code on your screen. Yes, that's right. Today, anybody can play, and all you have to do is join us at crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. We're going to play Turkey True or False Thanksgiving Edition. Everybody's decorated for Christmas in my neighborhood, but people are not paying attention to the fact that it is time for us as a society to give thanks. What do you mean? Boo, boo, boo. What? You booed everything that I said today? Well, maybe it's time. Maybe I can make you cheer. Guys, it's time to play Turkey True or False. Go to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. I'm going to do a cutoff here in just a moment. I'm going to press the button. We'll have 30 seconds to cut. Anybody can play Turkey True or False Thanksgiving Edition. We're going to play it right now. Everybody can play. Everybody can win. Here's how it works. I'm going to give a 30-second cutoff, which means no more players can enter the game, but everybody who plays is going to win a prize today. So after it's over, the grand prize winner is going to get something nice, and everybody else is going to get something a little less nice, but still nice from the Grift Shop. What do you say? More people. I can take up to 50 players. Marie, she's going to play. All right. That's right. I love seeing all the new names and faces in here. Celine has joined. We're going to play Turkey True or False, and everybody's going to win a prize today. Here we go. I've got 7 out of 50 people. Okay, once I start the countdown, you've got 30 seconds to get into the game. Go to crowdparty.app, type in the code 79976. That's 79976. Once I hit the Squid Game button, you have 30 seconds to join the game. The game will begin in T-minus 30. Go to crowdparty.app. Get in the game. We're playing Turkey, True or False, Thanksgiving Edition. You can also take a picture of that QR code on your screen. Turkey, True or False, Thanksgiving Edition. Here we go. 5 seconds left to get in the game. Autoplay on and start. Here we go. Let's play. Thanksgiving football games started in the 1990s. False or turkey, true? Thanksgiving football games started in the 1990s. False or turkey, true? False. 5 got it. 3 got it wrong. Celine, number 1. She got it number 1. Celine Dion. The Mayflower carried more than 1,000 passengers. Turkey, true or false? Oh no. Bill, number 1. Drew Trump, number 2. St. Selma, number 3. The tides have turned. Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey to be the national bird. Turkey, true or false? Oh, look at Bill. Feeling strong, huh, Bill? Remember, the faster you get the answer, the more points you get. Wait for the green light, then tap as fast as you can. Oh, Drew. He's got first mover advantage. Oh, Celine. Very fast. Chris coming up at top. First place, Chris. Celine, and then Drew. Wow, that's pretty good. Got a lot of points there, Chris. Bill's still number 1, but Drew is fading him closely. Grizz Cheese, he's not giving up. St. Selma and Celine, 4 and 5. There's a city named Turkey in the U.S. Turkey, true or false? Turkey, true. Oh my gosh, look at Drew Trump at number 1. Grizz Cheese, number 2. Turkey leftovers inspired the creation of the club sandwich. Turkey, true or false? False. Celine came back and she's now in number 1 again. Wow. That one really threw people for a loop. Turkeys can't fly at all. True or false? 8 false. 1 for true. Celine still strong at number 1. Grizz Cheese wants it really bad at number 2. This is so much fun. Corn was called Indian corn by settlers. Turkey, true or false? Turkey, true. 3 out of 6 got it. Grizz Cheese number 1. Celine number 2. The first Thanksgiving lasted 3 days. Turkey, true or false? True. Turkey, true. Grizz Cheese. Oh, Drew is coming back. Bill is making a fade. Oh, rock, paper, scissors. Here we go. Pick rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Which one is it? Oh, it's rock, which means Drew's number 1. And Marie came out of nowhere for second place. Wow. Turkeys blush when excited. False or turkey, true? Oh, turkey, true. I did not know that. Wow. Oh, God. Marie, Bill, you still got a chance. Last round. Here we go. The world's largest pumpkin pie weighed over 3,000 pounds. Turkey, true or false? Oh, my God. What a great show today. Turkey, true. Wow. And the game's over, which means, who is it? Drew J. Trump. Congratulations. Drew, your first prize. Marie, second prize. Bill, here's what we're going to do. All first, second, and third prizes today are all going to win grand prizes. So Drew, send us a text. Marie, 100, send us a text. Bill, send us a text. Everybody else send us a text as well, because first, second, and third prizes today are going to get a gift card to the shop. Send Brad Beckman's listening right now. Send Drew, send Marie, send Bill a $25 gift card to the 4Liberty shop at 4libertyshop.com. Guys, head on over. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Everybody else is going to get a $5 gift card to the Liberty shop. So if you want your gift card coupon, send us a text, guys. 573-319-1586. Drew, Marie, and Bill, you're going to get $25 gift cards to the shop. Brad, send them over to those guys. Make sure you guys let us know who you were, what your screen name was when you send us a text. And you guys are going to get those. We'll send you your gift cards. Grizz Cheese, Celine, St. Selma, Camellia, Arnie, Chris. Go ahead, text Brad. We'll send you guys your $5 gift cards so you can use them at the Grift Shop. Christmas is coming. The goose is getting fat, but delivery cannot be guaranteed past December 10th. So get the orders in right now, guys. You have no idea how quickly the holiday window for shipping is going. Go to 4libertyshop.com and exit through the Grift Shop. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. Number 4, libertyshop.com, guys. Head on over to the Grift Shop. Get yourself some delicious Founding Flavors coffee. What a wonderful way to wake up on Christmas morning with a delicious box of Founding Flavors coffee. If you go to 4libertyshop.com, we have a Christmas flavor, Founding Flavors Martha's Mint. Martha's Mint is delicious. It's our most popular holiday blend. Look at all the money you guys are going to save with this right here. Look at this. Throw it in there. You're going to save more. The more boxes of coffee you put in there, the better. Go to 4libertyshop.com. Get yourself a Red Cup Day Taxation is Theft travel mug. Don't spend your money at Starbucks, guys. They hate you and they fund abortions. Go to 4libertyshop.com and get yourself a red mug, and then it says taxation is theft. You can only get it at 4libertyshop.com. St. Selma says, thanks for the fun today, AP. You are welcome. I will be here again tomorrow. And we will have more fun. Have a great day, guys. See you tomorrow. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Bye, guys.
Cigarette taxes are costing states billions in lost revenue. Punitive levies drive black markets, fuel criminal enterprises, and, perhaps counterintuitively, help people evade the tax man. In May of this year, Customs and Border Protection, CBP officers, seized 150,000 cigarettes from 2 women disembarking a cruise ship in Los Angeles. The women had 10 pieces of luggage filled with smokes they'd apparently purchased in Mexico, for which they had no import paperwork. Why would anybody try to bring over 700 cartons of cigarettes back from a Pacific cruise? Because the haul was worth an estimated $60,000, and the 2 would have had no problem selling their cargo to smokers desperate to beat California's high taxes. Those stiff levies drive buyers and money to the black market. Selling illegally imported cigarettes could yield high profits for underground vendors, commented Africa R. Bell, CBP Port Director of Los Angeles John Long Beach Seaport. Due to the low cost of cigarettes when purchased overseas and the evasion of taxes owed upon import. California charges $2 at 87 per pack in taxes, which rubs many state residents the wrong way. Over half, 52.54%, of cigarettes sold in the state are smuggled from elsewhere. That makes California the leading destination for smuggled cigarettes in the U.S., bumping New York from its long position at the top of the list. In neighboring Arizona, 2.0 per pack, and Oregon, 3.33 per pack, over a quarter of all cigarettes sold are smuggled, while Nevada, 1.80 per pack, is a source of cigarettes sold out of state. State governments don't make money on cigarettes smuggled in from elsewhere, which is what got the CBP port director so hot and bothered. When even vacationers see business opportunity in filling suitcases with cigarettes, it doesn't take long for the numbers to add up. The cumulative impact of annual smuggling since 2007, the first year for which we have historical data, demonstrates the severity of the issue. Excise tax policy expert Jacob McCumber-Rosen wrote this week for the Tax Foundation. Over this 17-year period from 2007 to 2023, the total loss from net cigarette smuggling exceeded $83.8 billion, which amounts to an annual average loss of $4.93 billion. Over that 17-year period, the biggest hit in foregone revenue has been to New York State, which recently increased taxes to $5.35 per pack, with another $1.50 added by New York City, and spent many years at or near the top of the list for smuggling destinations. New York has been the biggest loser by far, forgoing $21.95 billion in revenue, comments Macumber Rosen. California comes next at $14.27 billion. Texas, which levies $1.41 per pack, ranks third with $750 billion. It stands to reason, though, that if people are smuggling cigarettes from low-tax jurisdictions to those with high taxes, sales and revenue collections must be booming for places with less burdensome taxes. We don't really know how much is raked in by Mexico, where about half of the cigarette market is off the books. But New Hampshire, 1.78 in taxes per pack, experienced the biggest gain from net cigarette smuggling, generating more than $1 billion in revenue from cigarettes purchased there but consumed elsewhere, according to the Tax Foundation. Indiana recently hiked to $2.99 per pack from $0.999, took in $848 million, and Virginia, $0.60 per pack, reaped $574 million. As the numbers show, high tax and low tax are relative terms. New Hampshire is a net supplier of cigarettes, with about a third of those sold in the state transported elsewhere. This despite the state having higher taxes than Texas, a net recipient of smuggled cigarettes which account for 1/5 of its market. It's all about your advantage or disadvantage relative to your neighbors, and almost everybody has an advantage if they're reasonably close to the ravenous revenue appetites of New York or Massachusetts, $3.51 per pack. Smuggling across state lines isn't the only way to beat the tax man. Illicit factories, often producing counterfeit cigarettes sold under major brand names, offer a more sophisticated way to beat taxes. In April, CBP officers in Laredo, Texas, seized a cargo of counterfeit cigarettes loaded in Vietnam that was estimated to be worth $700,000. That pales in comparison to a $2.3 million haul in 2020. Taking a different tack, the Mohawk tribe claims exemption from taxes in the US and Canada. Those countries' governments don't agree, and produces cigarettes under house brands sold in a gray market. The connecting thread is the widespread desire among consumers to escape draconian taxes imposed by government officials who see smokers simultaneously as moral lepers to be punished and cash cows to be milked. The twin goals of suppressing tobacco consumption and collecting revenue are mutually exclusive, but logic has never been the strong point of those drawn to government office. Besides, motivations are irrelevant when the end point is the same: business opportunities for those willing to evade the law to connect eager sellers with willing buyers. Tax rate differentials between states are a primary driver of cigarette smuggling, Macumber Rosen notes for the Tax Foundation. The larger the difference in tax rates, the more money that can be saved by driving across state lines to purchase products in lower tax jurisdictions. Sometimes this happens casually, with individuals cross-border shopping for cigarettes for personal consumption in nearby low-tax states, tax avoidance, while other times this happens commercially via a large-scale criminal enterprise, tax evasion. These organized criminal enterprises, often operating out of China, may counterfeit tax stamps, sell counterfeit cigarettes, or deal in prohibited products. Age restrictions, bans on flavored products, and restrictive laws that seek to limit or prohibit consumers' access to goods that run afoul of officials' disapproval also fuel black market activity. Ultimately, less revenue is collected than might be gained with lower taxes, and activities the government dislikes continue with the assistance of black market suppliers. Prohibition offered a huge lesson in the inevitable limits of restrictive policies that government officials refuse to learn, leaving them frustrated over their failures when it comes to tobacco or other goods like marijuana and vapes. Obviously, consumers are the beneficiaries of black markets that help them evade high taxes and other legal hurdles. But so are criminals, whose enterprises are funded and empowered by restrictive policies. Cigarette smuggling is a highly profitable but comparatively low-risk criminal enterprise that generates billions in profits, adds Macumber Rosen. Sometimes these profits are funneled to more dangerous activities like global terrorism. Smoking rates have declined for decades in a trend unaffected by tax rates. Government officials can't accelerate that process with punitive policies. They can only hurt themselves and empower criminals. As in all things, The best policy for government is to stay out of the way and leave smoke